everybody's favorite legacy sequel series, and still the most badass name for a dojo, Cobra Kai, is back. Season 6 is here, but not all of it. Only part 1, the first 5 episodes of this extended 15-episode season. And these first 5 episodes feel like a calm before the storm. It feels like round 1 of a karate tournament without the other rounds where all the things happen. It feels like setup and no payoff. And whilst I love the idea of spending more time with all of these characters that I absolutely love, it certainly is lacking something in these first 5 episodes that have been there in previous seasons. These first 5 episodes feel more Miyagi-Do and less Eagle Fang. And not to say it was bad, but I was a little underwhelmed. Now don't get me wrong, it's still incredibly funny. The karate training montages and action sequences that we get are all spectacular, but unfortunately part 1 doesn't really have that same bite, that sting, that strike of a Cobra Kai. The dojo, but also the first 5 seasons. After 5 perfect seasons and a spectacular season 5 finale that essentially wraps up every single main character's story points and arcs, and essentially feels like it could have been a series finale, save one Shawshank Redemption moment, part 1 of this final season is left in a little bit of an awkward position. It somehow feels like an epilogue to the entire series, the first 5 seasons, but also feels like an unnecessarily long, extended prologue to the final season, the final tournament, the world stage that it's setting up for its final 10 episodes. And it's kind of left in this weird holding pattern, because every single character's emotional stories and arcs are essentially finished, so everything they do to pad the runtime in these 5 episodes feels kind of forced. There are character dynamics that had been wrapped up entirely in very emotionally satisfying ways, and now they're like, maybe there's more conflict to be had, but it feels very forced, doesn't feel earned. It feels like they're kind of backtracking, but not in the interesting way. And it's just a little bit weird, because on one hand, I feel so deeply satisfied and emotionally kind of content with how everything wrapped up with the first 5 seasons. They all punched for a bit, but now they're mates, and that's beautiful and nice and cool, and I'm glad that everybody's, I was getting bullied, but then I'm the bully, now I'm the anti-hero / just a hero again, or whatever. Everyone's arcs have come full circle, and they're all on the same team now, and yet this season still needs to just have stuff happen before they get to this final world tournament, and I felt like most of the things they had happening with all the characters just didn't really work for me. It didn't land as hard emotionally as essentially every single other moment in the previous 5 seasons has, for me. But the biggest villain of these first 5 eps is the lack of a villain. There is no misguided teen who's trying to fight back and get the power back after being bullied, and he's led down the dark side by Cobra Kai. And you kind of hate them, but you sympathize with them. That's the main core element of Cobra Kai that I think works so strongly, that teen bully angle. And the nuanced portrayal of these stories that it told through so many of their characters, almost all of them have gone on their ups and downs, their Cobra Kais to Miyagi-Dos, and all of that stuff that's been so integral to how successful and interesting and rich this story is kind of just not there now, because they're all friends. They all punch for a bit, but now they're mates, and that's cool and fun and cool. But it leaves this season with just not really much tension. And sure, it's the first 5 episodes, but I just kind of thought maybe they had more up their sleeve. If they're going to pack this final season into 15 episodes, we're getting 5 more than any other season, I kind of thought they'd have something to do. And it really kind of feels like these 5 episodes probably could have been done in 2 episodes. And so now that all of our main characters' plots are essentially over, I feel like all the things they introduce in these first 5 episodes just don't really work, and it feels like it's kind of unnecessary baggage that they've added just to pad the runtime, because they've decided to add 5 more episodes and not maybe 2 episodes. Because this preamble, this prologue to the final 10, which does feel like it's going to be very epic and everything we want from a final season, it just doesn't feel like we needed 5 to get there, because there were moments in these first 5 episodes where I was kind of like, wow, this is maybe the only bad scene we've ever had. Slumber Party scene, I'm looking at you. And we do get a little glimpse at who will be our villains for the final 10 episodes, the original Cobra Kai. But I kind of feel like they were underdeveloped and not as interesting as every single other villain that we've gotten in the entire series, because I feel like whether it's been legacy characters or new characters, the nuanced portrayal of these villains has always been such a highlight of this show. It kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones, which is insane, but this nuanced storytelling that's been such a part of this show, I feel like with the villains that we're getting this season, it feels more like, no, they're the bad guys. And there is one late game twist right at the end that I thought was really exciting, but I feel like the way they pushed it, I feel like I kind of wanted them to push it a little bit harder to make me go, oh, now they've gone to the point of no return and they've really set the stage for this final confrontation. There is still some really exciting, fun stuff that we get because they've decided to add 5 extra episodes to the usual 10 that we would get. For instance, if they were just doing 10 or maybe even 12 and just giving us exactly what we need and kind of streamlining it the way the other seasons have felt, we probably wouldn't have time for, say, we meet Kyla, the original OG season 1 bully in college, and there's a really fun, interesting, like kind of classic, but I mean, Cobra Kai is nothing. It's not classic and kind of a throwback. And you're just like, well, there's always a bigger fish. And in Cobra Kai's case, there's always a bigger bully. And that I really, really enjoyed. Like that, I did mostly enjoy this. I just feel like there was a point where I'm like, a lot of this feels like we could have done this way tighter. I don't know. It sounds like I'm being super harsh. Those last 2 minutes where it sets up what's going to happen in the last 10, I was hyped as hell. And maybe it's just because it really isn't like a full season. It's a third of the season. And you've been able to watch all of Cobra Kai in one go, so you don't get a little bite size. There is no appetizers to this. And there's no round 1 without round 2 and round 3. Whereas now we have just got round 1. And so it's like, I'm hyped and I'm ready, but I'm just wondering, did we need to take 5 episodes to get there? Or could have we done this in 2? And if it was going to take 5 episodes, maybe spend some time wiser. That slumber party scene, wasn't the biggest fan, if I'm being honest. In fact, it's the only bad scene in the entire series, which is, I mean, it's a high bar. When the show is this good, at some point it has to drop and be not as good at some point. It just literally, it has to. One scene has to be the worst scene. Why is that always in the final season of a show? I don't know, but it always is.